You're listening to the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Fonte with a scooping header.
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
Отдача, Остин! Все-таки забил!
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0! Buffon shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. He ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, and available right here on SouthamptonDellivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you at least enjoyed parts of the match against United, even if the final score wasn't something we could celebrate, and the last 30 minutes were maybe even difficult to watch, and maybe even parts of this podcast are difficult to listen to because the dog is squeaking a toy in the background. That's a new dog. That's a puppy. She doesn't listen. So we're just going to go on anyway, because that's also what Saints should do. They should take some of the good things from this, and if you could see the dog, you would realize she's very cute, so you'll put up with this. But Saints had some moments of beauty. That James Ward-Prowse free kick, there's no denying how beautiful that was. There were very few moments in the game, though, that really, were good. There were lots of moments I thought where we were not very good. McCarthy came up with a couple of big saves, also had a few mistakes. It just seemed like the passing wasn't quite working. Like forwards found too much space, but Cavani came on and did what Cavani and what Zlatan and what Van Persie, I think, before my time had done before. And so we should, at this point, just be used to it, because that is what United do to us when we get a lead. So anyway, that said, we're going to get through it. It's going to be fine. When we recorded this episode with Michael Kurn, who you can find on Twitter and Instagram at Michael Kurn, we were still in fifth place, and we were okay with that. As of now, when this episode is coming out, we are down into sixth because of VAR. I'll just blame it on VAR, because West Ham are now above us. And I'm not sure I could hate anything else in the world more than the fact that West Ham are above us in the table. It makes me mad. But anyway, on this week's show, obviously, Michael Kurn and I will discuss the United match, but we're also going to talk about his newest project. If you don't remember, Michael Kurn is the author of Life of a Saint and of another book called Desire, Dream, Vision. And he's also the man behind the new Southampton documentary, Lawrie and The Boy of 76. It's all about the 1976 Cup final, so we'll talk about that in depth as well. Now, if you'd like to get more information on that, you can do that at lifeofasaint.co.uk. And once again, all of the links are in the show notes, so you can go follow him, find out more, and find out how you can get involved with Lawrie and the Boys of 76. So that's enough of this now. Let's jump into the episode, and we'll talk to you on the other side. We'd like to welcome back to the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, Michael Kurn. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram at Michael Kurn. We played Man United. We're talking about a half hour or so after the final whistle, a disappointing end, but we're also going to talk about the Boys of 76, which of course involves Manchester United. So we thought it would be a good place to meet. And unfortunately, the result just didn't hold up. But Michael, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, a little bit disappointed with the result. 2-0 up at half time. An amazing James Ward-Prowse free kick again. Of course, involved with that corner as well for the first. But I think it's one of those things, isn't it? We've had such a bright start to the season. A defeat against a low bottom half team like Manchester United feels like the end of the world. But actually, if you put it into perspective, we're doing pretty well at the moment. So, disappointed, but there's a lot of heart to take from it.
Yeah, this is one of those things. Disappointing, but not totally surprised. I was, if we just get out in front of it, I would say I'm not sure we deserved a 2-0 lead going into halftime. We kind of were up against it there for the first 20 or 25 minutes, but still happy with the team overall, and we'll get into that. But before we do that, England in the middle of a lockdown, but looking at fans coming back, and I guess just we'll just start there because that's a little bit of positive news in terms of being able to get fans back in the stadium. So just from your perspective, having worked in stadiums and been around fans and stuff like that, like how important do you think that is for just both the fans and then also the clubs that are going to rely, especially lower down the league? Ask you some questions about that. Just, match day revenue and things like that. How important is that kind of stuff, do you think, for everybody involved?
Massive, especially for those lower league teams, as you mentioned, because for a lot of those teams, it's the bread and butter at the moment. And it always has been the fans you get through the gate, the secondary spend when they buy themselves a drink and something to eat. It really helps with those clubs lower down the league. But also from an atmosphere point of view, and especially in the Premier League, that atmosphere inside St Mary's when it's full is something special. And we just alluded to how well the team are doing at the moment, and to not have the fans in the stadium watching and witnessing that in person, and the atmosphere would just be incredible right now. So yeah, great news as it stands as we speak right now. Looks like Hampshire's going into Tier 2, so that means I think it's about 2,000 fans that we can get in over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, fingers crossed. Obviously, the most important thing is the safety of everyone. We don't want fans going back in there and then falling unwell. So fingers crossed, all the procedures will be in place. But yeah, it's so incredibly important. And I think not just from a financial point of view and from an atmosphere point of view, but from a mental health point of view as well. I think it's really important. It's been tough for everyone across the world, Saints fans listening across the globe. It's been a difficult time for everyone, and it's been amazing seeing that the Saints fans stick together. Some of the conversations on social media and Twitter and everyone rallying together in this tough time has been really special. So yeah, it'd be incredible to get fans back and get back to some kind of normality over the coming weeks and months. Would be really special.
Yeah, my life hasn't changed that much other than teaching via Zoom, but to be honest, my match day viewing experience hasn't changed that much, and it's really just exposed the fact that I don't do very many things with other people. So the fact that I could just kind of be myself is nice. But definitely, I can see it in my kids. I can see it in my friends, and especially even my wife and my dad. Like I guess I'm somebody who doesn't need people around as often, but they definitely do thrive on that. And so, to have the big family Thanksgiving canceled, and to, we're probably not going to get together for Christmas for the same reason. But it is important to get people around and kind of build each other up and be around other people, and just, it is super, super important. And then, the football side of it, I think, is secondary, but also important, especially, talk about teams that are into the championship and in League 1 and League 2, and then lower than that, where you're not talking about 13% of all the revenue coming in being from match day revenue. You're talking about, closer to 75, 80, 90% is there. And so to not have that is going to be super, super difficult. But you work in an industry as a presenter and anything like that has been extremely hard hit by by COVID and everything else. And I was just wondering, I think a couple of months ago, they said you should learn how to do something else. So what, we're going to become a butcher, or what were you looking at doing with your secondary job?
That was quite funny. That caused a little bit of a stir over here. I took the test and it basically said I should go into some kind of entertainment industry. So I was like, well, I'm pretty knackered then, aren't I? That's pretty much what I do already. But yeah, look, it's been a time to adapt and evolve, hasn't it? I think for a lot of people, I think number one has been to make sure we all stay safe and look out for each other. But, I've had it, for me, literally every single contract for me in the first 2-3 weeks of the first lockdown disappeared. I lost the job at Southampton, which I was gutted about, but incredibly grateful for an amazing season there. And it was a pleasure to be pitch side and out in the fan zone. I met some great people, and the volunteers on a match day used to have a drink with them before the game, and used to love that. And it was amazing, and really grateful for that. And then TalkSport kept me on for most of the lockdown, but then didn't renew my contract. So it was been a difficult time for adapting for me personally as well, and I think a lot of people have. So yeah, a few days on a building site here and there. Got a few mates that work in the building industry. My dad's got his own building company as well, so a little bit of labouring here and there has been a bit of an adaptation. But yeah, that's what we have to do, right? Isn't it? First and foremost, keep ourselves safe, but at the same point, just survive and find opportunities and keep going.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's how you adapt and what your mindset is around that. And it's I don't want to give anybody advice because, like I said, my life hasn't changed that much. I've been very fortunate, but to everybody out there, you just, I guess, just keep going and that, and
yeah,
you've done that to a large extent, because even though those things have kind of fallen through, you've been super busy, and so I appreciate your time here because not only have you started publishing books, right? Yeah. You've written a book, which I have right up here. You got a documentary coming out. and getting back in the goalkeeping game a little bit as well, I think.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me in this lockdown. It's been about the positivity, and when I came on your podcast for the very first time, we talked about Desire, Dream, Vision, which was my first book that I released coming out, and just keeping positive and finding things that you like. And I guess for me, I was very lucky when I got to 19 that the football career, I realised I wasn't good enough to play for Saints in England, and I kind of drew a line under that football career and ran off to entertainment land. And then all of a sudden, I lose all these contracts left, right, and centre. I'm like, well, got a bit of time on my hands here. Let's see if I've still got it. So I went for a little bit of a tryout at Billericay, which is managed by Jamie O'Hara, because I was working with him at the time on TalkSport, and kind of felt I still had something, and could kind of, still had the footwork, and the hands were still, I could still catch a ball all right. And then, kindly enough, I got Dave Diper at Sholing. Obviously, if you lived in Southampton, you'll know about Sholing. If you're around the rest of the world, give them a follow on social media. They're a good, great little non-league team. Went along and they said, look, we've got 2 goalkeepers, but if you fancy coming along, you're more than welcome to train. And then somehow managed to flag getting signed on. And, I'm number 3 goalkeeper, and we've got a great little team there. Phil, our goalkeeping coach, is the top guy. Gozzy, great goalkeeper, he's the number 1. And Luke Beacon is the 23's goalkeeper and the reserve goalkeeper. And I'm back up at number 3, but it's a great bunch of lads. They're really, really cool. The captain, Byron Mason, really nice guy. They've all made me feel incredibly welcome. But having not played in 11 seasons, it's been a bit of an adventure, but loving it and just grasping the opportunity and Sholing playing red and white stripes as well. So that's always a bonus.
Absolutely. I saw you, one of your posts on social media, you were running and you were in the kit, and I was like, oh, that's great. And I just think it's great that you got back out there and you're doing it. And it's probably nice to be around a bunch of guys that are all working for the same thing, and just the camaraderie that we kind of talked about earlier, that the fans are hopefully going to get back, that hopefully the team is as well. Are you playing matches at this point, or is it still kind of on hold due to COVID? And what, we'll put the link to Sholing I think I said it wrong now, right?
Sholing.
Yeah, I was going to say Sholing before, and then I said, so okay. So, we'll put the link to Sholing in the show notes, but, are you playing matches now, or is that still on hold a little bit?
So we're literally just about to start again. So as we come out of this next lockdown, we're allowed to go back training again, and the league is just deciding what they're doing. But yeah, officially next weekend, we kind of get back playing again. And, it was kind of difficult because we had such a good little run before this second lockdown. We had a great little run in the FA Cup, which is incredibly special. Played Torquay United at home, and then literally the doors just closed. So the team have done a great job, the management team behind the scenes, to keep everyone focused. And me and Gozzy have had a little bit of a running competition of who can get the most miles in to stay fit, which I think I'm just ahead on still at the moment. But judgment days on that is Thursday, so we'll see how we get on. But yeah, no. So fingers crossed, when everyone's listening to this podcast, we should be back into playing again. And and I'm not too sure what the rules are going to be on spectators as of yet, but you're kindly going to post the link in the show notes. So give the club a follow, and you'll be able to see when our next games are.
Yeah, and it goes back to the original conversation we had about fans being in and what that revenue does, and how important that is to a team like Sholing to have people in there and supporting the club. So hopefully that can be done, even if you're not one of the lucky 2,000 that's going to get into St. Mary's, because obviously going from 32,000 to 2,000, that's a huge kind of drop off. So glad I don't have to deal with that, because that's it's going to make everybody upset. But let's talk a little bit about the Boys of 76, because for those of you mentioned Desire, Dream, Vision. You came on again with Life of a Saint. We were trying to figure out before if you were on again when there wasn't a project going on. But either way, we have those episodes there. And now you're coming out with the Boys of 76, which means you've worked with just a lot of former players, a lot of people that were around the club, a lot of people that played a role, not just in that day that we all kind of remember. We talk about Bobby Stokes and all that stuff, but the team itself. And I don't know, could you just give me a little bit of background as to what drew you towards that, to want to, I guess, to make you start the whole project in the first place?
Yeah, for sure. So the FA Cup is very special to me. The history of it all, David versus Goliath, I talk about it in DDV. It's a big thing for me. And obviously next year is the 45th anniversary. Off the back of doing the Saints book, Life of the Saint, I was like, let's do one next year as a special edition. We'll interview all the players. And then the idea just evolved, and I was like, well, why don't we make a documentary and interview these guys? Let's get it on film. Let's talk about that whole journey from the third round against Aston Villa right the way through the games against West Brom, through to the semi-final against Crystal Palace, and then to the final, and then the celebrations afterwards. So Mike Few, who works with me on Life of a Saint, is involved with this project as well. And we've got a great guy called Tim Ryan, who runs a production company called Echo 80, who's got involved. And the players have been amazing so far. We've recorded about 75% of the documentary so far. We've done some great interviews with Lawrie, with Pete Rodrigues, Hugh Fisher. We went to the bus the other week from the bus tour and did some interviews on air with Paul Gilchrist, Mel Blythe. So it's amazing. And we were meant to film with Mick Shannon and David Peach a couple of weeks ago, but lockdown, of course, has just delayed that slightly. But I'm hoping it's going to be an amazing project of just recording the stories, recording the memories. The fans are going to be involved as well. They're going to be part of it, which is really, really important for me. Because I think this project is important, that it's not a commercial project for me. This is about giving back to the boys and actually creating something and having a body of work there that really is maybe will allow younger fans to engage with that cup final for the first time. You know, there are so many clubs that haven't won the FA Cup that are a similar size to us, and if not bigger than us as well, you know. And I think it's important that we celebrate that. I don't think we celebrate it enough. We don't talk about it enough. And I guess some people will say, well, why are we glorifying something we haven't won in 45 years? But the amount of clubs that have never won the FA Cup, like, we should be celebrating these guys. There should be suites at the stadium named after 76. There should be a statue for them. And that's something I'm busy working on in the background as well, which hopefully I'll be able to announce next year. But I think it's important to remember these guys. So that's what the project's all about. It's about recording these stories, making an engaging documentary that tells a definitive story. But the big thing for me is giving back to the guys. So we've got our crowdfunder, which is underway at the moment. And as we speak, we're about 11% of the way. So yeah, we're trying to raise a few funds, and we're trying to do it in a way that we know it's tough for everyone at the moment with COVID. There's a lot of pull on resources for families, and that's really, really, that's number one. Obviously, to be able to write a check to all the players for £1,976 is a big thing for me. And to be able to do it, we need to write about 15 checks for other people that were involved in the squad as well, not just the 11.
Right.
Huey Fisher's in there as well. We've got Lawrie, and there's a couple of the players that played in the previous rounds and were part of that squad. So, you know, Bennett as well is in there. So there's a few players there we want to look after and say a big thank you. So I've put together the project in the sense that hopefully the packages are affordable, and you're going to get something in return. We're not trying to just shake a bucket and say, oh, please give us some money. You know, it's every package has got a reward. So the big one we're trying to push, especially around this Manchester United game, is the fact that if you've got a season ticket, you'll obviously get your match refund for not being able to go to today's game. That if you could spare us just the £19, you'll get a commemorative DVD with your name in the credits of the film as well. So I'm hoping that kind of engages with everyone in the sense that you can be part of the history, and you know your name's going to be in the credits of the film. You get something for it, and we've got other packages as well that range in value, that include like invites to the premiere and VIP drink receptions and stuff. But that basic package, I hope, is just enough that there's enough of a give back there in the sense of that we really appreciate the £19 if you can spare it. If we get 1,500 fans to be able to sign up to the £19 package, we smash the target, and we can write the check to all the players. So really appreciate times are tough at the moment, and and it's going to be difficult for everyone, especially with Christmas coming up. But if you are able to give us a little bit of your match refund from your season ticket, that would be amazing.
And I mean, this is also a chance that you could do that for somebody else as part of their Christmas present. They could have 100%. Their name in the credits, which as there are many. I realize I'm a converted fan, but you have lifelong Saints fans who have been around, and I can say that when I first started watching the club, the 76 Cup final, that kind of, because we were on the EFL Cup run when I started the podcast, it was something that was coming up a lot, and I remember trying to find fans early on that had been there, and there are some around. They're maybe not as plentiful as we would have hoped. I mean, there are a lot more people that were at the JPT final, of course, because we basically filled the entire stadium. But the people that were there and just what it means even to their children and things like that, like the stories they have about that day are special. You can also, not to plug too much, but the Saints Archive, you can the match may or may not be on there if you join the group and watch it if you want, if you haven't. Because it was I was pleasantly surprised when I watched the match. It was not what I was expecting from a football match with the I guess the stereotypes that go with football of that day. The team was very good. They played very nice football. It was an enjoyable match. The pitch is huge. And, at the end, spoiler alert, we lift the trophy, and, we can talk about it now. So you mentioned there are some other packages. You have a 19-pound package, and they go up from there, but the rewards also go up from there. So if anybody's interested, we'll put the link in the show notes. People can go check it out. They can donate and be a part of this, because that's kind of what this whole thing is that it's about being involved and everybody kind of being a part of this and celebrating those people who were still around, who played in the game and who are part of that. So I do have a couple of questions just around that. I mean, how did you go about finding some of these guys? Because not all of them, as I go through looking at some of the stuff from 76, a lot of people, I guess it was a thing to do. You buy a pub and you start working at a pub after that or something like that. But how did you go about finding these guys and tracking them down and convincing them to talk to you about this?
Yeah, that's such a good point you make. And I think as one of the stereotypes as well that we kind of have to get over with some of the younger fans is these guys aren't on the money and weren't on the money that, the players are today. And I think that's the big thing, that generation in the 70s and towards the 80s and maybe some of the 90s as well, they didn't make the big money that they did as footballers now. So these guys, like you rightly said, went around a pub and did other different pieces and maybe worked on a building site or did other jobs. They went back into normal life. That doesn't really sound the right thing to say, does it? Right. But they got a job that was another job after football. They didn't just stop playing and retire. But they were gods of their time, heroes. They still are heroes. So yeah, I was really lucky. So Mike Few is a big part of the Life of the Saint project, and he's got loads of contacts with the former players. I'm very lucky. I know one or two through bits and pieces. So yeah, Mike has pretty much kept in contact with all of them, which is amazing. I was very lucky a few months back to play in a charity match with Matt Latiz, and Mick Shannon's son was there, and I said, would love to set an interview up with your dad. Is that possible? And he's like, yeah, of course. Let's sort it out, which was brilliant. So yeah, and everyone's been really impassioned to be part of it. Mel Blythe and Paul Gilchrist came all the way down from London the other week, and we did some filming on the bus. And for me, it's just such a pleasure. I kind of sit there, and obviously it's all COVID safe how we're filming and distances, but I kind of sit there opposite these guys, and I'm a little bit in awe. I kind of have my questions and kind of get the stories out. But when you just chat to them and, you really, really mean and really find out what it means to them, I think that's the main important thing. You can still see to this day, how much it means when a fan comes and wants to talk to them about it, and when they talk about moments. And it's been incredibly powerful because obviously, sadly, Bobby Stokes is no longer with us, and neither is Peter Osgood. So to actually chat to the players about those players that were part of that squad on such a pivotal moment and get their memories and stories means that those guys are really part of this documentary as well, which was really important for me. But it's a privilege and an honor to be talking to these guys one-on-one, and kind of hairs on the back of your neck kind of stand up when you hear some of the stories. It's very special. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm very much looking forward to it all coming out, and I just wish I couldn't be there at the premiere, but obviously COVID and how many miles is it? 6,000-7,000 miles between us. It makes it a little difficult, but it'll be good.
It's cool though. We've got some really cool things planned though. Like we've been chatting to the guys at Aussie Saints, and then we're going to do a premiere in Australia. Mm-hmm. We're going to try and do them across the country. So across the world, should I say? So maybe we'll try and set a little premiere up in the USA for you. Matt, we could do something over there. It'd be nice. It's just a big thing for me is getting the fans involved. So right. The premiere in Southampton is going to be very cool with lots of former Saints as well as the 76 guys there. But we'll try and get you involved as much as we can.
All right. I like the sound of that. A couple other questions about it. We actually got a question from the Ugly Inside. So jumping ahead just to that, because it kind of falls into this. I mean, their question was, what's kind of been your favorite anecdote that's come out about from any of the guys that you've heard? And maybe, you don't want to give it all away, but what's something that maybe, you found surprising that you really enjoyed from the guys?
There's some great ones. There's one that I'd love to share, but I think it's going to be what we're going to finish the film on. Obviously, we've still got a few more interviews to do yet, but Pete Rodrigues came up with an amazing line, which kind of, part of me wants to share it with you, but part of me wants to kind of keep it because it is.
No worries.
When I was sat opposite him, just the hairs on the back of my neck, there were some funny ones from chatting to Lawrie and Jim Steele and that, and they were saying that obviously the West Brom game, there's this kind of conspiracy theory that they kind of were given food poisoning the night before the game, and obviously we managed to get the draw at West Brom, and then we absolutely beat them when we got back to the Dell, and a bit of revenge on that, which is a good little anecdote because they think someone put something in the food. It's just the whole experience for me is pretty special. these guys were just a group of lads that wanted to go and play football, and that you hear their stories of the semi-final, and that realization they've made it to a cup final, and that whole day, that whole experience, and the whole staying in the hotel before. We kind of cover loads of stuff in the documentary. So yeah, I really hope that there's some really cool, interesting bits that maybe some people have heard before, but hear a different side of it, or something for the first time. But yeah, the Peter Rodriguez story, I just don't want to tell you, but I can't, because it's going to be such a good end to the film. So
it'll be worth it.
Yeah, it will be.
And just, you've done podcasts in the past, you've written books, you've published books, you've worked on the radio, you've worked in front of, live in front of people, you've done the Saints End of Season Awards, and now you're getting into video, and that's a whole different thing. Has it been challenging for you to kind of, because it's a different way of telling a story versus doing something on the radio or even doing a live interview, I think. And so I guess for you, what's been the biggest challenge, and then also something you've enjoyed about the whole process, other than, getting to sit with people that most of us want to sit with and ask questions, and you get the opportunity.
Yeah, no, completely. I think, being a presenter, I love just hearing people's story. I think that's a big thing for me. And the Life of a Saint project has always been about telling people stories. And, it doesn't matter if you played 1 million games for Southampton or you played 1 game from Southampton, you're still a Saint. So that's the real pleasure for me, is chatting to these people. And it means so much to them to have worn the Saints red and white, or yellow and blue, of course, for 76. But yeah, it's an amazing challenge, because I think you kind of know where you want to go with it, and you kind of go, right, we're going to go round by round, we're going to tell this story. And I know that one's quite a big story. That game was really important. And then obviously the final and how we kind of deal with that. And I guess for me, it's quite an exciting journey. It's a bit of the unknown, because you go into the interviews with the questions and you don't really know what you're going to get. So I think that's part of the fun as well, as kind of being a little bit apprehensive, because you're really hoping that you're going to get something fresh, something different, and the stories are going to come across well. But yeah, it's been amazing so far. And kind of Rich from Saint Shirts has kind of given us the shirts from the 76 final to have as backdrops for some of the scenes, which is really cool. So yeah, the whole experience is incredible. Loving telling the story. We'll start editing in January time and start stitching it together. But I feel like we've got a good narrative so far, which is really cool. Of course, the whole story is amazing, but actually the content we've got so far is wicked, and we've still got Ian Turner to speak to, obviously Mick Shannon, David Peach to speak to as well, and Jim McCalliog. So there's still a couple more interviews to go, and I'm sure we'll get some more nuggets from that.
Yeah, all right. Well, I hope it continues to go well, and I look forward, like I said, to the finished product. And we'll put all the links to things for people to get involved in the show notes. Obviously, you mentioned it is COVID time, it is tough, but Christmas is coming, and maybe if this is something, you have to buy somebody some plastic thing that they won't care about. Honestly, we probably all have slippers we like. We're fine. So maybe you're naming the credits here, something that'll live on well past the slippers and the socks. Anyway, let's move on towards today a little bit and jump forward. There was, of course, at the beginning of today's match, the minute of applause for Diego Maradona, and kind of told you before, I didn't post anything about it. One thing I never want to do is pretend that I know something I don't, and I never watched Maradona play. I've seen the warm up video. I've seen some of the goals, and from the hand of God to the one he scored, the other one he scored that day. But I also have a hard time separating the person from the player. And I've listened a lot to people, but it just, as you've grown up in a place where football is a much bigger deal than where I live. So I guess just what's the mood been around that this week, and kind of how have you kind of experienced that or felt kind of his legacy so far?
Yeah, I guess for my generation, and someone says who's the greatest of all time, your first instant reaction is Messi or Ronaldo. But I think for me as a football fan and as an England fan, whenever we played Argentina in a World Cup final, the conversations with your uncles and your dads and your family and friends was always about, Maradona, hand of God. That's where the footballing rivalry kind of happened. I think we still feel aggrieved and still feel cheated from that game that we should have won the World Cup that year. But like you, seeing video footage of him and seeing him warm up, that video of him just dancing around with his shoelaces undone, balancing the ball in the football in his head, you really just see that skill and talent that he had. And it was like a lot of players of that generation, when you talk about like the George Bests and the Bobby Moores, you kind of think, how would they have played in the modern game without being taken out every 5 minutes? Their tackling was so heavy back in their day. I think he's an absolute genius on the pitch, and I think that's how his legacy remembered. Like you said, there was the personal issues, that have made the headlines as well. But I think that in a time like this, you just appreciate what a talent and what a gift he was to the world of football, and the amount of players that have been inspired to play because of him, I think is incredible. And to say you watch those videos of him playing, it's just memorizing, and certainly up there is one of the greats of all time, if not the greatest.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something too. Is you don't go out in the street and pretend to be James Milner. You don't just want to run up and down the pitch the whole time. You want to go out.
That's brilliant. That needs to be clipped up. That's brilliant.
I mean, he is my favorite player, but that's just because I am weird. But you want to go out and you pretend to be Maradona. And I remember doing this as a baseball player. You want to do somebody with a cool swing and all this other stuff. But so that inspiration for so many people, and not necessarily just where you are, but also it meant so much to Argentina and I think the rest of South America. So just to remember that, I thought it was pretty special for the players. This is the first football match I watched United versus at Southampton this morning, and that was the first match I watched all weekend because of family things and things like that. But the tribute there I thought was pretty special, and I just kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit. And then coming into today, the form of Saints has been really, really good. We kind of talked about it earlier. So I guess for you, just being able to watch and having maybe hopefully a little bit more time to see the matches and kind of experience them, I guess the same way I do. What's been your biggest impression from the team so far this season?
Look, I just think Ralph's done a remarkable job. The team seems to be playing really, really well. We're not going to win every game, and I guess when we start playing well like this, it creates that level of expectation that we're going to win every single game. It was a tactical masterclass against Wolves on Monday. It was very much a war of attrition, but I think we came out really well and played some good stuff. And there's so many positives to take at the moment. The fact that we're scoring goals still when Danny Ings is injured. Fingers crossed he's going to be back pretty soon as well. But Walcott coming into the side and doing well. And I think it's just one of those seasons where everything just seems to be fitting into place. I get that kind of feel of when Pochettino and Koeman started putting a side together and we started to play well and everyone started to believe again. And I think the big thing for me is just hoping the side stays together. I still think there are positions and things that need strengthening, but the way we're playing football, that never kind of die attitude that we've kind of got at the moment, I really like, and the intensity. And, you're going to get games like today. We weren't the best. We weren't on top for what sways of the game, but, we managed to get ourselves ahead. And disappointing, obviously, we couldn't keep the lead. And I felt we gave Man United a bit too much space, especially in the second half. And regardless of how well they're playing, they're still have got a lot of talented players in there, and that can cause you problems. So that was obviously disappointing. But no, I'm really excited for this team. I think Ralph's doing a great job. I think he's got the players playing for the badge, which is really, really important. And everyone talks about the game that should not be mentioned, but the turnaround has been incredible, and the belief I think is awesome. And yeah, proud to be a Saints fan right now, because it's nice to see some exciting football players that want to wear the shirt. You see that passion, and you just see the outpour of emotion when Theo Walcott came back and how much it meant to him. I think that's really special, and it's an exciting time, I think, on the field for the club. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it progresses throughout the rest of the season. I'm a deluded Saints fan, so of course I'm dreaming we're going to be playing in Europe next year. But anywhere inside that top 10, considering the struggles we've had over the last few seasons, that would be incredible. That would be like a trophy for us, finishing in the top 10, considering the last few years. So, and that will give us a great platform to build on again.
I think for me, it almost now takes so much effort to not get swept away in the enthusiasm. Yes. It's like, whoa, like I got to hold on because, but it's tough not to get excited because you think, oh, we lose Ings and that's going to be real trouble. But then, we keep getting results, we keep scoring goals. Walcott, I think, is like, as you mentioned, had a huge impact. And it's not something we normally see from Ralph, where somebody comes into the team and plays right away and plays such a pivotal role. And yet Walcott, maybe it's the experience, maybe it's, I think that has to be it. And he just comes in and is able to understand the system and fit in and not be perfect and not, he still makes some mistakes, and but he's played across the front now. He's played right, left and center. And, I can't really fault him for the work that he's doing. And I think he's been super influential since in Ings' absence.
His movement off the ball has been brilliant as well. Like that first game when we didn't have Danny Ings, I just watched Theo and he kind of sat in that position And he did everything that Danny does. He drops in to get the ball, creates the space for Shea and the other players getting forward, which is great to see. But I just pulled the league table up, and I can remember the commentary in the game today, which in the UK, if you listen, was just so Man United biased. It does my head in. Like, sorry, we're higher in the league than Manchester United. You know, at half time, they're like, oh, United are 2-0 down. Well, hang on, no, Southampton are 2 up, who were top of the table a couple of weeks ago. United haven't been top of the table for a while. And it's one of those, isn't it? We come away from the game disappointed, and you look at the league table, and we're still 5th. Yeah. And you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, it's early doors still, but, you know, at many seasons over the last few years, to see Saints in 5th, it kind of eases that disappointment slightly, just conscious we need to bounce back again next game.
Yeah. It's all about, you know, taking whatever positives were there and learning from the mistakes and then moving on. And do realize that the teams we're going to face, especially if I think we go to Brighton next, you know, they don't have quite the same quality. They do have Danny Welbeck and Adam Lallana, but that's not the same as some of these other people that United are able to throw out there. So, although I did feel today that Cavani just did to us what Zlatan did to us, you know, it's just kind of the same thing. And it's just like, why does this happen? But at the same time, we're still in 5th place. Like that feels good to say.
And let's be honest, when you look at our defensive line, you know, we haven't necessarily, without sounding disrespectful to the back line, we haven't got world-class defenders that everyone's like fighting over to get. And you've got a lad like Cannavaro coming on, who like is an international, well-known player who's incredible. His movement is phenomenal off the ball. You know, and there's lessons to be learned, of course, isn't there, from every single game. But, you know, we've done so well, and I think Bednarak and Vestergaard have kind of paired up really well this season. So look, we're going to have the odd game where, you know, maybe we should have got closer to the ball this game, and I think we did give them a bit too much respect, and we didn't close them down enough. But, you know, it's I think with the squad we've got, we're doing incredibly well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's take a look at the lineup then. I think it was unchanged from previously. McCarthy, Kyle Walker-Peters, Bednarak, Vestergaard, and Bertrand going from right to left along the back line. Ward-Prowse, Romeu in the middle. Armstrong out wide right, well, kind of wide. Ginebo on the left, and then Adams and Walcott up front. You pretty much just kind of know that's what it's going to be, with Ings out injured, with Redmond missing through injury. And, you know, I don't think there should have been any changes. I think that's the team. That seems to be Ralph's style, is you put these guys out there with the understanding of what they're all doing, and they continue to impress. And I would say, though, that unless you disagree with that, we'll just kind of move on to the first 20 minutes, where we're really kind of up against it, where United had the better spell of possession. They were causing trouble in the midfield. They outnumbered us in midfield, and you know, you outnumber us and you have quality midfielders, which will cause us problems. And we just couldn't seem to quite link passes together. The kind of one-touch stuff wasn't working, and yet we still wound up kind of holding off and holding on for that and working through it. But I guess, was the start of the game worrying for you when you kind of saw that we just couldn't seem to get out of our own half for portions of it?
Yeah, it was an interesting lineup, wasn't it? From United's perspective, you know, I think for Southampton, I like that lineup. Romeu, I think, has been brilliant this season. Like, really showed some real class. Isn't afraid to get stuck in. I know he picks up the odd too many yellow cards, but you know, I like to see a bit of passion and someone that's prepared to put a tackle in the middle of the park. Ginebo seems to be getting stronger the more game time he's getting. Does remind me of a very early Sadio Mane. Just needs that strength, needs that confidence, and I think we're slowly seeing that come through, which is really, really good. And you know, the rest of the side speaks for itself, which I think is really good. But yeah, that first 20 minutes was tough, because I kind of, at points I looked at it and saw Man City-esque in the sense of, right, we haven't got the ball, and we've got the composure to sit back and let you attack us because we know we're going to get a goal. There were glimpses I thought, okay, you know, I feel like we've got this, but the way United set up, they were just so deep every time that they took up so much of the pitch. So whenever we got the ball, it was very difficult to then hit our counter and get up because they were sitting quite deep. That did make it very difficult to get out. And when you've got players like Greenwood and Rashford and the squad that Man United have, they're always going to put pressure on you on your back line. And it kind of penned us in, really. So obviously to get the goals from the set piece from the corner obviously was very important, with Bednarak coming up and getting that one in. That kind of took a little bit of pressure off. And then James's free kick, obviously masterclass from James Ward-Prowse once again. But yeah, I think it's tough, you know, when you play against a side like Manchester United, regardless of their form, they are still a very talented team of individual footballers that, if they can play together, should be doing a lot better than what they are. So it's always going to be difficult, because they will expose you if you push too high and if you take too many risks. So it's getting that balance right. But you know, it was a good test today, and as I say, it was pleasing to be 2-0 up at half time.
Yeah, I thought we were maybe a little fortunate to be there. But as you said, Ward-Prowse heavily involved in both goals. And what I think we just have to say, United, if we look at the job that Ralph has done with Saints and the squad that he has, and you transfer that over to United and look at the squad that they have and the job that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has done, it's not quite the same. And
No.
Maybe there's a positive light here. We lose today, and maybe now nobody wants to take Ralph, so we'll take that, because I know I know that Carl Anker, who was the writing for The Athletic, covering Southampton last year, every time he got asked about it a lot on Twitter the last couple of weeks as we were approaching this match, and he just said, leave Ralph alone. And I have to know that deep down in his heart he would go like, yeah, I'll take him, but he's not going to say it out loud because he is a gentleman. So we'll take that. And I did post on Twitter or Instagram that losing the Carl Anker derby really does kind of hurt a little bit. It's not what I wanted, but going. I guess let's talk about that first goal, because it seemed that we were just trying to crowd out De Gea under everybody standing right on the line, right around him, and that ball just comes in just right to the front post. And we've seen set pieces for us the last couple of weeks. It seemed like we were aiming for Vestergaard at the back for some sort of knockdown, and he was standing more in line with the penalty spot that he was, anywhere else. And this week we seem to have changed that tactic, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the belief that the De Gea won't come through and try to get there or what. But I think Ward-Prowse's kind of initial delivery from that was spectacular, and then Bednarek's flicked header was perfect.
Yeah, no, it was. Do you know, it's from a tactical point of view, it's always an interesting one whenever that ball's put into the front post, because obviously you're trying to pray for a knock on, or if you can win the ball first, you can get a nudge. But I'm never really a fan of just trying to get it into that front post. I'm like, get the ball in, get a delivery into the box, get something in there to cause a problem. And I would say a large portion of the time the ball doesn't even make it past the front man when they go for that ball at the front post. But yeah, no, overcrowded it today, timed it perfectly, because it's from a goalkeeping perspective, is a difficult decision there of do you come or do you stay? If you've got loads of players in front of you, are you expecting your defenders to do better? Which I think the United defenders should have done better. But then you say, should David De Gea have come and claim that ball? It's at his front post. But, it was an incredibly crowded area. And look, let's not try and make excuses for Man United. Bednarak took his goal well, and it put us one up. And, obviously we've made it difficult for him. He's come off half-time injured, which obviously no one likes to see, but hopefully he's okay. But, for me, you kind of look at it, you think the defender should have done better, but we'll take that, and if that ball occasionally works at the front post and we can win the flick on and get something, I'll take it.
Yeah. I guess one complaint I would have today is not a lot of chances out of open play, but capitalizing on the set pieces. I don't think it's fair to criticize them and then not give them credit for what they're doing, because obviously they're working on the set pieces, and they are, I don't want to say low percentages, but they take work and to perfect them and make teams pay. Thought it was good. And after that initial kind of 20-25 minutes of pressure from United, we came up with 3 corners kind of right in like the line of 4 minutes, and we had some pressure and we scored from that. And then the second goal eventually comes a few minutes later from Ward-Prowse. And that's just something teams have to know. They can't give away free kicks, especially on the left half of the field, anywhere around the 18-yard box, because Ward-Prowse will make them pay. And he's had some very special ones in the past, and very pretty ones in the past. And then you get the commentators on afterwards that say, oh, well, the placement wasn't that good, the goalkeeper should have said it. And this one, they showed the replay, and it is just millimeters off the post. So I don't, maybe he could have got it a little higher, but I don't think there's anything he could have done. I don't think there's anything De Gea could have done. And that is kind of, I think, where the injury came
flying
from.
Towards a post isn't the most exciting prospect.
Yeah.
Throwing yourself towards a movable object with yourself, with a human body. But look, Fred gave away, from a Man United perspective, giving away a free kick there is sloppy, especially when you know what Southampton can do. But we could say that about ourselves for Manchester United's second goal. We had a free kick, decided to go backwards, and then gave one away, and gave them a chance. But yeah, I think it mentioned what you said about open play. I think it was quite interesting today that the way Manchester United set up and defended, there was always bodies behind the ball, and obviously that's been very difficult to break through, because they did sit quite deep, which obviously makes it then difficult to kind of get those run-ins and use that turn of pace and find the space. But I think we had chances. There was a great ball that got put through. I think Theo whipped one across the box in the first half, which we didn't quite get on the end of. I think it was Adams at the back post. But yeah, look, plenty of positives to take away. If, let's say, set pieces, making the most of those. And Prowse is just a genius. I don't know why, the last England squad he was in, like Kieran Trippier's taking free kicks. Like, we've got this guy on the pitch. Like, you were to show a highlights reel right now, and in 10 years' time of this season, James Ward-Prowse is like one of the best midfielders in the world with his free kick ability and the way he can put a ball in. But I think he's level with Jamie Redknapp now. He's obviously ahead of Latiz, but I think he's chasing down that David Beckham, 16 free kicks, David Beckham, isn't it? So I think he'll be chasing that down in a few years. But I'm glad we've got him locked into a long-term contract. But I think he's a great guy. When I hosted the awards, he won a couple that season. He won the President's Award from Terry Payne. So I've got a lot of time for James Ward-Prowse, a fantastic player, and I hope I can't see him going anywhere. You never know, but I kind of really hope he is like a Lambert and a Latiz and those kind of icons that become real clubmen, because there's real potential and chances for us the way things are going, and it'd be great to have him as our talisman.
Yeah, if he wants to go the route of David Beckham, I mean, he'd be down the street from me, so I'll take that later in his career.
If he wants to come to Galaxy, right?
Yeah. And then, I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with it, but one of the things that Beckham put in his contract was he basically said, if I'm coming over there, I'm guaranteed to be able to buy into a club, buy into the franchise at a set price, which means he paid just a significantly lower price than everybody else. I think people are paying upwards of $200 million to buy into a franchise, and he paid something like $25 million. I think I could be wrong on the exact number, but he's a brilliant businessman in addition to being a fantastic footballer with a lot of tattoos and very pretty. So Ward-Prowse is behind on the tattoos and also on the free kicks, but he's getting there. Let's talk about goalkeeping a little bit, because there was a section, there was a moment early on when there was a miscommunication between Vestergaard and McCarthy, and I didn't quite think the ball had enough on it to get all the way to McCarthy. I thought Vestergaard should have dealt with it, but I also thought the communication, just somebody needs to take leadership and take charge out there. And from my perspective, not being a goalkeeper, I know that the defender is running back and not being able to see necessarily everything that's happening, and the goalkeeper does have the opportunity to kind of see everything that's out in front of him. So when you saw that, I mean, my heart was in my mouth. But what were you feeling on that, and what was kind of your initial, I guess, reaction to that miscommunication early on in the match?
Yeah, it's a big thing as a goalkeeper, communication with your defenders. It's kind of one of those, isn't it? As a Southampton fan, you're always conscious that there's going to be maybe a potential slip at some point, like a heart and the mouth moment. I don't think it would be a Saints game without one or two of those. But if we're talking about the same one that McCarthy made a great save on the second bit of it, so he kind of made up for it well and truly. And I think he did some great stuff today. Actually, he made some really good saves and some important saves. But it's like anything, isn't it? The pressure of goalkeeper and defender relationships. You time it perfectly, and it's a great bit of play. And especially like teams like us that want to play out from the back. The amount of times that we've got the ball near the centre circle and we go all the way back to the goalkeeper. That communication is important. But luckily we didn't have to pay for it today.
Right.
But even the greats have had to pay for decisions like that, wasn't it? I'm sure there was a famous one at the start of a couple of seasons ago. It might have been De Gea, or it was one of the big teams, wasn't it? That had that. Kepa did it as well, didn't he? I think start of last season. But these things happen. But communication is important. And I think defensively with Vestergaard and Bednarak and McCarthy, I think we can say that the improvement is something we can definitely see, and there's lots of positives to take from that.
Yeah, I thought McCarthy showed us the best and worst of himself today, in true kind of McCarthy fashion, struggling sometimes to distribute the ball effectively, but then making up for it with a spectacular double save and coming up big in one-on-one situations. And it's, I don't want to criticize him too much or more than he deserves, because that's kind of, he's being asked somewhat to do something he's not comfortable with. In a lot of teams beforehand, you look at, because I think he's 31, maybe 31. So coming up most of his life, probably not distributing the ball from the back in terms of making passes into midfield, and more kind of like, you aim for the corner of the halfway line and put it somewhere around there, and that'll be fine. And now having different things happen and being given, I guess now you get punished for that if you make a mistake giving away a ball in midfield the way he did. But then, like you said, he made up for it with the passes. And I also sometimes I wonder, there's always a moment in every match where McCarthy comes to punch and he doesn't quite get there. And every time I go, oh no! And this time they did score from it. That was the second
goal. Yeah, just but the punch wasn't. It was back into a danger. And I guess that's the thing with goalkeeper, isn't it? That ask now of the modern goalkeeper, you're more than just a guy who stands in the net and has to stop the ball. You've got to play, you've got to link play, you've got to set things up. And it is a tough position because if you're a midfielder, you're a striker or you're a winger and you lose the ball or you don't get it quite right, guess what? There's another player behind you, but you are the last line of defence. And I know it's a cliche, everyone talks about goalkeepers, but the more and more they're getting asked to do, the more and more these strikers are putting incredible crosses in. They're putting incredible headers in. Their shots are faster than ever. They're being creative. Some of the skills that we see. So it's a great little battle. I love watching it develop over the years and over the months and seeing how teams play and adapt. But yeah, I'm part of the goalkeepers union, so I'm always one to defend a goalkeeper. But yeah, like you said, it's tough, right? A ball comes in, you've got an instant decision to make of what you do. Do you punch it? Do you catch it? And you've got to back yourself on that decision. And if you're going to punch it, you've got to punch it clear and you've got to get something on it and get it away. But at the same point, he's punched it away and then have the defenders reacted is another thing I would say. I think we stood off Man United again too much in that instance. We just let people wonder and, you've got to maintain your concentration at those points. When the keeper has punched it and cleared it, you've got to step up, you've got to react, close the ball down. And I think we just gave them a little bit too much respect at a couple of chances today.
Yeah, I think that's totally it. And every time they scored, I was like, okay, who's offside? And it turns out nobody. There's somebody playing way too deep.
We're hoping for VAR now, to rule out every goal that goes against you. Like, oh, come on, VAR, was his armpit offside or something? and
I mean, we were saved by that so many times last season, and then this season it seems to be a thing. But also, United didn't get a penalty today, so maybe...
I know, I was so surprised. When it went 2-2 or when it went 2-1 initially, I was like, here we go. Yeah. That's 2-2. There's a penalty coming soon.
Right.
And then we were saved from a United penalty.
Do you think that was kind of the problem, though? You mentioned just standing off them, giving them too much space. It looked like Cavani, was able to get into some space. And sometimes, as you said, if a goalkeeper makes a mistake, it's almost always going to be punished by the other team scoring a goal, which is a huge swing in a game when you're only going to get a goal or two between the teams. And whereas, Che Adams loses the ball upfield, which doesn't happen very often, or Ward-Prowse gives it away in the middle, or Romeu does, there is generally somebody else, or, you have the opportunity, if worst case scenario, to bring the player down, take a yellow card. McCarthy doesn't have that opportunity. He doesn't have that safety valve, I guess, that everybody else does. So we should keep that in mind. And I thought, he was definitely the better of the goalkeepers today, and there were three to choose from, not just two, which is abnormal. But I would say that he was definitely busier, but also showed himself to be up to the task of making saves. Especially, I thought there were a couple of times where I thought Rashford was offside potentially, but he got through and McCarthy made the stop anyway. So I guess we just give him some credit.
I think as well, we have to appreciate that was a great ball in for Rashford for one of the headers as well. Yeah. Like, whipped right in, it was a great ball, and the way he was stooping in for the header, we have to kind of give him a little bit of credit on that.
Yeah. Overall, a little bit disappointing, I guess, to give away the lead just because we were 2-0 up and having not played well, which I think is a sign of something good because we were able to withstand some pressure and we didn't cave. And then the second half, I felt like we were going to be okay. And it just, we were until the dog had to pee at the 58-minute mark. And then I missed the first goal because of the puppy. So I came in, saw they scored and went like, I guess they had that coming. And then I just, just holding on, sitting there and just, it was not a good feeling because it didn't feel right. And then 5 minutes of stoppage time and all of this stuff. But
it's always the way with those teams though, isn't it? It's the same with Liverpool, Manchester United. If they get themselves back in a game, you just know what's coming. And as frustrating and as annoying as that is, you see it coming, you're like, oh no, please no, don't get an equaliser. And you, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the psychological aspect of it that as a fan and, you're thinking, oh no, they're back in it now. But then I guess it's the quality of those teams, like I alluded to earlier, that they're not playing that well at the moment. But at the end of the day, if you look at that team sheet, there are quality players out there that, I'm betting loads of Saints fans have got in their fantasy football team. There are players in there that have got great quality that can create those moments of magic. So when they are 2-0 down, they are always dangerous. Even at 3-0 down, they are dangerous. And I think that's what we paid for today.
I guess if we had the chance to go back to halftime and do something differently, would you do you think we need to encourage the team to attack more and press more? Because it seemed like United outpressed us a little bit today which is the first time I've seen us kind of lose that battle. We've played, teams that are traditionally pressing sides, and I don't consider Manchester United one of those teams. I think they would much rather hit us on the counterattack with the pace, especially given that Bednarak and Vestergaard are not the fastest individuals, and McCarthy, covering. We saw him play a super high line early on in the season. It didn't work. So I guess would you have said just, go out and press them more? Or do you think that, I don't really want to question Ralph too much, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, no, I think like we said earlier on, United were, they weren't the best, and we didn't have our best of days, but, the way they set up, it was just very difficult for us to break through. And players like Rashford up front as well, and Greenwood in the first half, they've got pace. So it's okay pushing up, but all of a sudden you then get caught with the ball over the top. So I think it's a 6 of one, half a dozen of another situation, really, because you can say, we should have pushed up a bit more, we should have pressed a bit more. I think ultimately we should have retained the ball a little bit more. We gave the ball away too sloppy today. And I committed one too many fouls, I think, in areas that we didn't need to. I think it was the second United goal. We've got a free kick. We've played it backwards and given away a free kick.
Right.
This game management, I think, was maybe where we let ourselves slip a little bit today. But, like we said, we kind of feel a bit deflated or disappointed right now. But look at the league table. We're fifth.
Right.
We're not in the bottom half. We're not fighting relegation at the moment. We've had some great games. We've got Brighton up next. We've got Sheffield United on the way. That's easily potentially another 6 points before, our next couple of games after that. We've got to play Arsenal, Man City and Liverpool around Christmas, haven't we? I think between now and Christmas. But there's Fulham in there, West Ham's in there as well. So, there's some really winnable games the way we're playing. The way Liverpool are going on at the moment with injuries, I'm sure they'll have a few more little slip-ups and Mr. Klopp will be upset a little bit more because it's too many games for him. So, there's points to be had there. There's nothing to be afraid of. I think that's what's nice about us, and that we're playing with that freedom, we're playing with energy, we're playing with excitement. And, maybe we're paying for not enough depth, maybe. We've got a great starting lineup, but maybe we quite haven't got those options on the bench that just give us that little bit of extra. And that's nothing against the guys that are on the bench today, like Long and Lindelöf came on, and Obafemi. We've got some great players there on the bench, but, sometimes you just need that, like you said, like a Milner that's got that experience off the bench that can just come in and just steady the ship a little bit. I think maybe that's what we lack a little bit, but who knows? Yeah,
and it's always going to be tough, as you said, against a team like United. And like I think you pointing out the game management aspect, which I thought we were, I guess going back to that Everton match, that the game management we showed there was very impressive and something that I hadn't really seen from Saints up until that point. So
incredible that game.
And
didn't believe.
And you just kind of hope, okay, build on that. And then you come up against teams where, it doesn't quite we lost it against Aston Villa. We didn't manage the game well. And then you kind of go, okay, well, this is I guess maybe this is just part of growing. And then you come up against a team, I guess, that has the quality of United, and it gets harder to manage the game. And all of a sudden the little things that you were doing against teams lower down the table that were working aren't quite finding the places. And then you have to recover and they punish you for it eventually. And I think, we got lucky a little bit in the first half, and then to you continue to do that, and they eventually will make you pay for it. And I think that's kind of just what happened today. But like you said, fifth place, they're not, we are, and we have a chance to continue to improve and move forward. Just one more question, probably as divisive as anything I've asked you so far. Man marking, zonal marking, where do you stand on that?
I prefer man marking because it's a responsibility. Stick with your man. Win the ball, no messing around. I kind of see the advantage of zonal marking, but for me personally, I like kind of stick to your man, height for height. Let's not get caught out with all of a sudden someone not as tall as you coming up against the ball and winning it off you. I'm a man to man kind of man. What about you?
I think I was just raised this is your guy, stick with him. And that's always at some point, especially I guess when you play in the park, it's just like, that's your man, stay with him, because there's no tactics. It's just like, you just don't lose the individual battle. And I think we have guys in the team that are really good at that. You look at Che Adams. I thought today he was impressive again and doing all those things, holding the ball up and things like that. But sometimes our set pieces, you just wonder, I can understand maybe you have one guy who's kind of free, maybe even two people who are kind of either side of the 6-yard area, and you just say anything in here, you just attack and just obliterate and just get it out of there. But at the end of the day, I think man marking, everybody lines up, you stay with them and do the best you can. So I'm good with that. Those questions came from Al Capone on Instagram, so I just wanted to kind of throw those in there at the end. But I just want to say thank you again for coming on and talking about this and talking about the Boys of 76. And I am very much looking forward to the video coming out, the movie coming out. Or what do you call it? You call it video, you call it a movie? What do you production?
Documentary, film, movie. Yes,
okay.
it's a documentary. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to minimize it. My kids take videos on their phones. I don't want to do that to you because I know it's a lot of work, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And the book, for the people who haven't taken Life of a Saint or given Life of a Saint a read through, it's fantastic. The stories are great, and so just to have that in there and know this is coming, I'm very much looking forward to it. And all the links and everything that everybody needs are going to be in the show notes, so people can go down there and click through and kind of stay in touch. And at least 2,000 fans back in the stadium now. Hopefully, a fuller house when we get to this in the spring. So just want to say congratulations on the project and continuing to do that. And thank you again for coming on.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me on, and keep up the good work. Love the podcast. So pleasure to be on. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And that does it for this week's episode of the Southampton Dellivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Michael Kurn. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram at Michael Kurn. If you'd like to get involved with the newest project, Lawrie and The Boys of 76, Michael is working with many wonderful people to help complete that project, and you can be part of it by going to lifeofasaint.co.uk. Click on the pop-up that shows up, and you can learn more and how to get involved with the project. I think you'll be very satisfied if you do that. Just like Michael has many wonderful people that he is working with, so do I. The Southampton page on Twitter is the partner page of the show. They will keep you up to date with everything going on around the Southampton Football Club. And if you're interested in more of the history, be sure to check out the Saints Archive. Together, we recorded the latest episode of the Total Recall segment of the show, which will be out sometime around Christmas. But check them out. The links are in the show notes. The logo for the show is done by Matt Beeling of the We Are Southampton page on Instagram. All music comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you're listening to right now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. If you are enjoying the show, please do leave a review and a rating on iTunes or wherever you listen. It helps other people find out about the show. And if you'd like a little bit more, and you'd like to make sure the show continues, please consider supporting the show on Patreon at patreon.com/SFC Delivery. Although I realize it is the holidays, it is peak COVID time, and this might not be the right time, and that's okay too. I hope you stay well, and we'll be back next week after the Brighton match. And until then, remember, together, we march on. All day. That's her all day.